Hello, everybody. This is Aaron from Use Your Words podcast, and tonight we are starting. This is the first episode, full episode of. Oh gosh, am I going to call it Bible Belt or should I not call it? Do I say that if I'm going to call it Bible Belt? Like if I say Bible Belt, that's it, isn't it? Wouldn't that be it? Well, today I am joined by my friend Paul from Use Your Words podcast, the main guy, the main man.
I don't know if I'm the main man. I'm the one who edits all your flurbs and blurbs and puts them together into one coherent sentence.
He's the one that makes this show happen. So this is pretty much the official first episode of whatever this thing is yet. I don't know. But it's something I want to dive into with learning how to, make videos and edit and all that kind of fun stuff. And also I just wanted to do a more personal, deeper side of things for, I guess, me and Paul
and have an excuse to drink.
Yeah. As well, hopefully, I don't know, maybe you can see I did this a little heavy-handed this time.
Why don't you show them?
Yeah.
Show them the camera.
Oh no. That's not all whiskey. It's probably some water by now. It's melted a little bit.
And when he says some water by now, we started on this journey 25 minutes ago.
Yeah.
25 minutes of melt here.
So Paul's got a very diluted drink of whiskey right now, and we are drinking a nice, well, to me, a lovely Blue Label by Johnny Walker. And it's not just your standard Blue Label. It's like this Port Ellen special kind of Blue Label. Whatever. That's not important. But it's good. And I thought for a first episode, do something a little special.
Because Aaron never goes cheap.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that part.
So what did this set you back?
Well, I mean, we'll just say if you got this in a bar for your shot, it'd be about $30 to $40 for a shot.
So yours would have been like $100.
Yeah,
what you're drinking,
probably. Yeah, I'm expensive type.
Note to your future girlfriend.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you know what I spend my money on, so you don't want to be with me, anyways. So I figured for the first episode, I'd maybe just kind of do an introduction of kind of our stories. So I wanted these videos to be more on a spiritual topic kind of thing. And to get into it, I figured, well, why don't we just kind of start with where we started on our journey as a Christian and kind of talk to you about that. And so you get an idea of our backgrounds, our growing ups and stuff like that. And hopefully it's interesting. Hopefully you enjoy it. And I mean, gosh, I don't know. I guess we'll just jump right into it. I guess I can start with it if you want me to start.
I mean, this is your show now. So yeah, this is all you, man. Okay. You are the one that's going to start. You tell me when I'm to talk.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So, all right. Well, to give you a background about Paul and I guess, I mean, geez, we met.
I'm sorry. We're not a couple.
Yeah.
Careful with the phrasings.
Don't let them fool you.
I am not Josh. How much of this have you drank already?
I've taken 3 sips.
We're in for a long night, people.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I met Paul at church, at Fellowship Baptist Church. And I was a part of the youth group and joined in playing drums at the youth group, and then eventually guitar or whatever. But gosh, what our first kind of like semi interaction was in the car ride, right?
Car ride to snow camp. And you were the quietest thing in the world. The quietest thing in the world.
Yeah,
let that settle in for a second. If you know Aaron personally, Aaron
Yeah.
was quiet.
I was a shy guy. Yeah, pretty much literally I had headphones on, listening to music the whole car ride up, not really talking at all. Paul was even willing to be like, "Hey, do you guys want to put your music on and listen to some tunes and stuff?" I was like, "No, got my headphones, we're good." Yeah. And that was it. So really entertaining ride. Anywho, so yeah, years later, I remember, well, yeah, how many years? It was years later for the family camp thing.
Yeah, because you were older.
Yeah. Pretty much during the summertime, like our church would go to this camp up in, it's a little north of Madison. I can't remember the actual city or it was in. It's called Camp Fairwood.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the city off the top of my head, but
yeah,
I can look it up real quick.
We'll find that out. But so it was during the summer. We'd go up to this camp and hang out, and the guys went out for like a midnight swim kind of thing or whatever. And as Paul and I were just hanging out, talking afterwards, and started kind of getting more on a deeper level, kind of talking. And what?
It's in Westfield, Wisconsin.
Westfield, Wisconsin. So cool camp if you're ever in that area. Nice. But yeah, we were talking, and I wish I kind of remembered all that we were like literally talking about specifically that night.
So, okay.
You take it away, Paul.
Yeah.
Take it away.
So there's a little component to this. So I was Aaron's youth leader for that time. He was still a teenager. For those of you who don't know us, we have a 12-year age difference. I had to do math. For whatever reason, I thought 7 minus 5 was 3 for a second.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. 7 minus 5 is not 3. I need to stick close to the mic and so. But me and Aaron have a 12-year age difference, and I was his youth leader at the time. And we were doing one of the lessons that week, and that's what sparked this conversation, because I was intentional with this conversation, was about Jonathan and his shield bearer. And his shield bearer just kind of went in and was like, "Hey, I am with you all the way. I'm not doing necessarily the crazy stuff, but I'm, holding the guard. I'm holding the stuff with you. I'm supporting you. I'm doing all the stuff, and you can go do all the crazy stuff." And I was like, you know what? I'm not the most exactly physically fit and all that, but I can, and I'm not always the most, I guess you could say, adventurous. Especially at that time, I was very conservative on everything I did. Like before I would make an action, I would like analyze it for weeks. But I said, you know what, Aaron, I see something special in him. So I said, I intentionally sought out a conversation and said, hey, look, here's my thing. I have a belief that you're going to do something crazy and you're going to do something good, and I'm going to be there, and I want to support you no matter what. You could be a crack addict prostitute living under a bridge. You give me a call, I will be there. I don't care if you try to shank me. I will be there and I will help you out. So that's where that conversation landed.
Yeah. That was like very different, like to hear as a kid, as a student dude. I was like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy.
You normally don't hear people tell you, even if you're
crack, whatever under the bridge. I'm like, sick. Like, I guess that really means he's gonna watch out for me, I guess. No,
little did you know all what that meant.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. I'm still learning now. Oh,
yep.
If you've listened to other like past episodes, you'll learn some things about how much I don't know. But yeah, that night was a big kind of turning point in our friendship. And gosh, I mean, it just started growing from there. And then goodness, well, I guess I'll get into these next parts as I kind of tell my story, because it has a big part of my growing up and stuff like that. So now, to totally mess with you, I'm gonna go back many years, even before I joined this church and youth group. So for my story, pretty much it's, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I've told quite a few people about this, but this is
on the internet.
Yeah,
this is public. This is congratulations. Any future church you go to is going to put this up on their projector while you're getting baptized.
Oh no! I've already been baptized. Oh shoot! I didn't. It's funny. It's kind of funny that we're talking about this because last night I was hanging out with some friends at this older couple's house, and they wanted to know our stories and stuff like that. And I totally forgot to mention the point that I got baptized. But
Well, guess what? Share it here and send them the link.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. So yeah, this pretty much for me growing up. I mean, I grew up in a Christian household. Growing up, going to a church for all my life. The church I grew up going to was called Grace Baptist Church when I started going there. I guess now it's just Grace Church. Not that matters. Whatever. But yeah, so I guess at a really young age, gosh, how old was I? I was little. I was young. I was like kindergarten, first grade, something like that. I remember praying with my mom about, wanting Jesus to come into my life and, accept him as my savior and stuff like that. Cause that was the thing that I guess we were supposed to do. So I did it. But I guess, yeah, at that time for me, I didn't really know what I was doing. So as time went on, I went to a Christian school too, K through 8th grade, kindergarten through 8th. And I think it was like 5th grade was a rough year for me. And as well, you can't really see much now. I'm not a thin dude.
You can stand up.
I ain't standing up right now. It's too much work.
By the way, you haven't really drank your drink, and I'm done.
Oh my god. Well, all right. Well, I'll get drinking if you want me to. But
I think it would make your story more entertaining.
I'll get to it. But yeah, so 5th grade, rough year for me. I was kind of like the fat little kid in class. I wasn't the only like chunky kid, but I was the biggest target, I guess you could say, in class.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And it was, and well, yeah, I wasn't the tallest kid. There was one girl that was taller than me, and that was like really weird.
Oh, you were shorter than the tallest girl.
Yeah, it was congratulations. They made fun of me for it. No, they didn't. But anywho, I was pretty much, for me, I was like the butt of a bunch of jokes, and pretty much all jokes, whatever. And pretty much what I tell people is I was a very over dramatic kid. So surprise, Paul. Yeah, I don't know.
So is that why you and Josh are such good friends? Because you used to be an overdramatic kid, and now, well, Josh.
Yeah, no. So Josh actually, okay. So I met Josh, the other guy that's part of this podcast. Gosh, yeah, we knew each other at Grace Church growing up, and then he also went to Racine Christian School with me for like a couple years, and he went off to this other school. And so at this point in 5th grade, he was not in class with me anymore, so I didn't really know him that much. But yeah, so again, me being a little dramatic 5th grader, it was all getting to my head. Like there's times I told teachers like kids are picking on me, And obviously, I mean, kids being kids, the tattletale is not really a popular kid. So that was just more ammunition for them to fire at me, kind of thing. And so that at that point, it kind of made me nervous to try and tell anybody about it, because it's like, well, then it's just gonna make it worse for me. Whatever. So this is all getting in my head, and me being me, I was just dramatic and overthinking stuff, even as a kid. So anywho, one day, a friend of mine had invited me to go to this VBS at his church, Vacation Bible School. And of course, I mean, well, he's my friend. Well, of course I'm going to go. Yeah, sure. But at the time, a lot of this, bullying, I guess, stuff you could say, was going on. And I was home alone one day. And both of my parents were gone. And I went into my parents' bedroom, and I knew that Dad had owned handguns. I mean, I've seen them, and knew where they were. I knew where he hid them. So I got a hold of one. And this is where it gets really dramatic really quick. Yeah, so they had like a big mirror in their room, and I sat on their bed, looked in the mirror, had the gun in my hand, cocked back, ready to go. And honestly, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, as a fifth grader, I was like, I was ready. I was ready to call it quits as a kid.
Now I want to interject something here. Never, I would never say anyone who gets to the point where they're ready to take their own life is being dramatic.
All right. Well,
Okay,
yeah.
I know you kind of say I was being dramatic. I was being a dramatic fifth grader,
Right.
but there is something going on if you get to that point where you're like, I want to end it.
Yeah.
You know, that is never, and I want to make this very clear for anyone out there, and I'll get into this more on my stuff, on my side of things. But that is never just because I've heard this. It's a cry for help. It's over dramatic. That's a new phrase I've heard. Okay, usually I'm like hearing that with Valley teenage girls or something, not fifth grader who wants to take their life. I would not call that over dramatic. I would call that sad. I would call, and not sad like pity Aaron, the sad as in that culture has allowed things to happen like that, and that there wasn't support for you proper. That's where I would say
Well-
that, you know, and so I just want to make that quick call out that
No, yeah.
I wouldn't call it over dramatic. I would call it you were at a crisis point, and you
Right.
were at a point where, you know, things were going bad. And yeah, you're right. You know, fifth graders, tattletale, you don't get the other stuff.
Right.
So I don't want it, some people to, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want someone listening to be like, oh, he's just saying people like that are being over dramatic.
Oh, no,
yeah,
it's-
yeah. And
it's-
I know
yeah.
you're not, but
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to take that away
Don't-
as a point. I think
Yeah.
we all realize, I think you're just trying to kind of bring a little levity to how you were processing the situation at that time.
Right. Yeah, and no, yeah, it's definitely like for me, if I were to look at someone, I guess, well, any age, really, yeah, any age. If it got to that point, it's like you don't want to take anything like that lightly, because I mean, gosh, what was it during this, you know, COVID times and stuff like that? There was a guy who lost his son during these times.
Yeah, and he blamed it on COVID due to isolation and that. And there's been
Yeah.
a spike in the number of suicides and that due to
Yeah.
COVID. But
Yeah.
anyways, let's continue on your story. Fifth grade, mirror, bed,
Yeah,
gun cocked.
ready to go.
Let's continue.
Yeah.
If I was an animator, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to animate the next few places.
Go
on.
So yeah, and at that point, I mean, yeah, I mean, again, having the background, going to church, you know, knowing of God and Jesus and the Bible and stuff like that. Like I don't know, I didn't spend time reading it. I didn't, you know, really think much of it as that time went on from when I was a first little kid and, you know, asked Jesus to be my savior kind of thing. And I thought about my friend who had sent me that invite to go to church with him. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Like, don't do this now. Go to church with him, go to VBS, check it out. And, you know, summer is about to happen. You're not going to be with those, well, a lot of the kids, you know, that were giving you a hard time, whatever and whatnot during class or school. So I was like, just go. And that was a turning point for me. Because so going to Grace Church, big church, a lot of people. Had like a couple friends that were there that I kind of knew, not a ton. And going to this new church, a lot smaller, a lot different than Grace Church, which was fellowship. And is kind of cool because one of my teachers, she was like the music teacher, I think maybe even art teacher at Racine Christian School. She was a leader at this VBS, and it was cool to be in one of her like sessions or whatever. And one of the days throughout VBS came to the thing where it's like, came to the part where she was asking us about, you know, do you believe in Jesus? Is he your savior? Do you have questions about it? Do you want to, you know, talk about it? And you have to check one off and give it to the leader. And depending on what you checked off, depended on what happened. And at that point, I was like, I I don't have anything. I guess like I'm curious about it. I want to talk about it. So I had checked off the one where saying that I wanted to talk to her about, accepting Christ as my actual personal savior. And we went out and to the hallway, talked to her for a little while, and she prayed with me and I prayed, and kind of that was a turning point. And like as years went on, I mean, still there's kids in school that give you a hard time, bullying, whatever. Thankfully for me in this aspect, as I was getting older, in like the 8th grade range, I started kind of growing into my, I guess, body, you would say. I wasn't so chunky anymore. So I was like, okay, yeah, sick. And then yeah, high school came and it just went down, and now I'm at where I'm at now. So yeah. So, and bullying is not prevalent anymore. It's not a thing.
Nope. You are now the bully, aren't you?
No, not all the time.
I'm kidding.
But no, yeah. So I guess, yeah, over the years and stuff like that, obviously, like, I don't know. For those of you that might not know anything about like the Christian life growing up, obviously, once you get to that point where you ask Christ to be your savior, it's not a like, I don't know, one day flip around and everything's just like, hunky dory and, just a field of roses and flowers and unicorns and all that kind of crazy stuff. Like, it's life still is life. But obviously things started kind of changing a little bit, and got more into reading and stuff like that, and just finding out who this Christ is. And so yeah, during those years until like 8th grade, I guess like there was I guess there was seasons where it was like it got hard again, whatever, mentally, and just like the whole getting picked down, whatever. Um and like I guess you could almost say I had a like one more attempt, but it was kind of really like wasn't an attempt, thankfully. It was like, I don't know. It was weird. Anywho, then high school came around, and that was a big big culture shock. Going from a little Christian home to that's all you know, and then going to public high school, and it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in the world. Um so that was an interesting point for me. And like at this point, like I don't know, I'm used to not being a popular kid. I'm not like, well, although I guess 8th grade, I was one of the big kids at the school because, well, we were the oldest ones at the school, and our class had like 14 people in it. So yeah. Yeah. 14 people.
14.
Yeah.
Wow. That was your 8th grade class?
Yeah. Yeah. We had, I think going into, I mean, the most we had was like 20 some, maybe 30 kids in our class. But yeah, for our 8th grade graduating year was 14 kids. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of people really to pick from. So we were all pretty good friends, which is cool. But high school came, whatever, back to square one again, new people, new setting, freaky. But it was fine. Like, it was pretty good, smooth ride for the most part. But then I guess with high school, I mean, goodness, what is it? There's a saying of, who you hang out with a lot can really put a, impact on you and influence you on who you become, kind of thing. And that's something I kind of learned in the high school years. I had some friends that, I had gone to school with in the past at Reaching Christian, even go off to high school and then get caught up into more like at the time, not alcohol, oh no, drugs, but they got into like more partying and alcohol like near the end of the years. And I had one friend to go off to school in Madison, and like him and I were good friends. I played drums, which is a big part of my life. Music is a huge thing, as you can see. I got some guitars here, and I mean, those are just 3 that I'm showing right now.
You can also see part of your drum set.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's like some drums back there. Maybe you'll see some of those later. But yeah, you'll see the guitars probably change the background from time to time because I like to change things up.
He has an issue.
Yeah. To say the least. But yeah, so I grew up playing with this friend of mine. He played guitar and I played drums, and we'd always hang out like on weekends, jam, have fun. But he was someone that kind of fell away from, I guess you could say, religion and just like Christ in general as time went on. And he was still obviously a really good friend of mine. Well, for a while, is like during that time, during like high school and stuff like that, kind of had like a weird like separation because I mean we didn't go to school anymore. We didn't have reasons to keep in contact. Uh, but as near the end of high school, we started contacting again and hanging out, talking, jamming. And then college came. Well, at least, yeah, for him. And he went off to Madison again in school. And it got to a point where it's like we wanted to kind of like start like a band kind of thing together. That's sick. That's fun to do. And at his school, they had a studio we could record in. And so for man, a long while, uh, I'd pretty much be up there every Friday night going to his school. We'd start recording in the studio at 10 p.m. at night and go till 4 a.m. in the morning. But this is where I started to kind of even learn more about my friend and kind of see what I don't know. I guess. And gosh, I feel weird like talking about him like this because I mean we're actually it's kind of funny because we're in a band today with a couple other friends and like I love the dude to death and I feel bad like saying this. I don't want anybody to get like this bad opinion of him. He's he's a bit of a different guy now. Um, but so he was really starting to get more into alcohol and even like drugs and stuff, which for me at the time was like freaking me out. I was like, oh no. But after a while hanging out, it kind of got used to it. Didn't really matter so much anymore. I was like, just figure this is it. This is what it is. Whatever. Just whatever. And at this point, I mean, I was involved at this church fellowship on Sunday mornings, like playing for the band and involved in the youth group and stuff like that. And so at this point too, like I know Paul more than I did that night from family camp, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
because you would have been what, 20 at this time?
Yeah, 1920. Yeah.
20. Yeah.
Yeah. So anywho, so one time a friend invited me to go out to Madtown, Madison, and so I went out there with another friend. And well, if you've listened to our past episodes, I think we've talked about it. I'm pretty sure we've talked about
yes,
it. Yeah,
we have.
Yeah, we have. Brewer and I, we got trashed. We got messed up up at our friends. And at that point I was like, man, like thinking about playing at church and stuff like that, like this ain't right. I'm not this like just something in me was telling me this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. And like, you know, go to church and you play on a Sunday morning and being a Christian, you're showing them one thing that like, yeah, like you got it, I guess maybe almost got it together or something, like you're following the ways of Christ. And by doing that night, definitely was not. And one thing that got me is a friendship I had developed in high school with this a friend of mine. I was Snapchatting her and one photo had my friend in the background drinking a beer or whatever. And at that point, like I didn't really touch my phone anymore. And that's when all the drinking began for me and Josh and whatnot. And woke up that next morning. Thankfully, nothing too crazy happened. Well, I guess thankfully, I guess I woke up because I remember talking to another friend and he's more of like a medical guy, whatever. And told him how much I had that night. He's like, dude, you're lucky you didn't get alcohol poisoning kind of thing. And I was like, what? Like that's a thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. And
I think what saved you was the fact that you were hugging the toilet.
Exactly. So yeah, at that point at that night, like I had a sandwich that whole day. And yeah, so I was hugging the toilet that night, needless to say. And I woke up thankfully not without a hangover, which was great because those suck. And my friend had sent me a Snapchat like, hey Aaron, like I don't think it's okay for you to be out drinking with your buddies and stuff like that, especially when I was underage, and to drink to that extent, like that's not Christ-like kind of thing. And that that was a gut check right there. So at that point, I had pulled out of the worship team at Fellowship. And this guy over here, Paul, is like, what's up with you? What's going on? And I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, because all of a sudden I'm getting ready for youth group night, and all of a sudden I get a text message from, hey, I'm gonna drop out of the youth group worship team and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, this is a sudden change. What happened? And I remember specifically you did not come to youth group that night.
Nope.
And so this is what we referred to as our October conversation. And where I came to I came to his place at night after youth group, and we're on his yard. So imagine his nice little yard, this is his yard. I was here. He was here. That's as close as he would get.
Yeah.
And it was like a standoff.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what's going on? And obviously nothing's coming. And I was like, want to grab breakfast? And he agreed. Surprisingly.
Yeah.
And we went to breakfast.
Yeah. I honestly, I was a little shocked that I agreed too. But and this is where, you kind of taught me this later on. It was like, I'm glad I didn't do it at this time. But saying no, because like at this time I was still very, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll do that kind of thing. Like a very yes man.
Still a yes man.
Yeah. A good amount at least.
Example.
Stop. So no, yeah. I ended up getting breakfast. And just I'm like mentally prepping myself, like, you're not gonna talk about anything. You're just gonna go grab breakfast, have nonchalant talk, whatever. Just whatever. How's your day? How's your weekend? I don't know. And so yeah, we're talking on the way to the place. Gosh, what time you got me out like 9 a.m?
Something like that.
Ish. So yeah, that's when our talk kind of started. Just chit-chatting, whatever.
Yeah, it was very chit-chatty.
Yeah.
And I knew something was up, so I knew I had to chit-chat to get to real talk.
Yeah, and which did actually surprisingly end up happening. As much as I told myself, not bringing it up, yeah, it came out. So pretty much it happened a little bit before we got to the place, kind of ish. Well, more.
I think a little bit, just because I kind of brought up
the kick in the pants.
Yeah, like we don't. Exactly. I brought up that we don't like getting kicked in the pants. And I'm not talking like kicked in the front or anything. I'm talking like we don't like getting our butts kicked, and a reminder that maybe we did something wrong, or maybe we need that, I guess, encouragement, if you will. Yeah. That forceful encouragement, maybe sometimes. We don't like it when we're corrected. We don't like it when someone says, hey, you did something wrong here. Maybe do the right thing, and it sucks because that reminds us that, hey, guess what? We're still a screw up. And when we're told that we're a screw up, it's not exactly something that, you look up every day and go, oh, wake up. All right, someone tell me how I screwed up yesterday. That's going to make me feel great.
Yeah.
That doesn't work like that. Usually it's like, oh, someone's going to tell me how I screwed up. Uh-oh.
Yeah, not an enjoyable moment at all.
Never is.
No.
And it doesn't matter how old you get.
True. Almost feel like it can get worse as the older you get at times, depending on what the situation is. But so yeah, we sat in that parking lot for, I don't know, hours. Yeah, literally
without getting food.
Yeah.
Before we even got food.
Yeah, we sat in the parking lot hours before we even went in to get food, and then obviously conversation continued from there and on the way back home. But no, yeah, so that was kind of a big wake up part for me, and one, just my relationship, just like big, come back to Jesus moment, like, wake up, you're being an idiot.
I would like to add though that, like, at least from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there wasn't any like, Aaron, you idiot. There was like, Aaron, I'm kind of disappointed in you.
Right.
And it's like, but I get it. You're a young guy. You're grown up. You're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all are going to do crap. And I issued a challenge to you, I believe, if I remember
Not to
right.
drink.
Not to drink unless
Parents.
yeah, your parents gave it to you.
Yeah. And like as Paul was saying, it wasn't like a cracking down on me like you're an idiot, whatever kind of talk. That was one thing that really, I guess, kind of like shocked me, honestly. Because me going into it, like I figured, well, if I say what I did, I'm just gonna be like, wailed on, not literally, but like just that would have been interesting. But my parents may have never let me hang out with you again if that happened. But
child abuse.
Yeah, it's something like that. Well, I was over 18.
No, you were over 18.
Yeah, so it's not child abuse anymore. But anywho, like, yeah, assuming that the worst was gonna happen, kind of thing. And that was the opposite of what happened. And that was like I said, that was a kind of an eye opener. Like, shoot, Paul even started opening up to me at points and stuff like that. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, you mean you're telling me you have a hard time with things too? Like, what?
Yeah, I do not have everything together.
Yeah. So that was a big like eye opener for me. Like, I just, for whatever reason, I assumed, oh, well, if, you're older than me, you've got it all together, and they're gonna like crack down on me like until I get it right. And I learned that we don't have it all together and all right. It's a very long learning process. If you got something to add.
No, I don't have much to add. I mean, because you even learned that even as recently as 2018, that I don't have everything together.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, not kind of cut it short. So I mean, yeah, like that was an eye-opening part. And okay, as I already forgot about, during high school, I got baptized. So that's like supposed to be a profession of faith. Like, I'm gonna work at following Christ and whatnot. And clearly, I started to get away from that. And that's where really accountability started to become a part of my life and learning about it more so with Paul.
Oh, it's not just me. And let's see if this even shows up here. It's not gonna focus on that. You can't see it. Anyways, there's an app that all three of us use. It's called Ever Accountable.
Oh,
yeah. So we literally keep each other accountable on web-based stuff. On and it doesn't matter the fact that me and Aaron are like 12 years difference of that fact. Well, let's be honest here, guys are gonna suffer no matter what age there are with certain things. I don't know how much you want to spell that out, Mr. Johnson. That's up to you. This is all you.
Women are attractive.
All right.
I'll put that at it. So shocker. But yeah, so
Mama Johnson, please don't listen to that. Your baby boy has never done that.
Yeah, this is weird. But so yeah, no, again, so starting to do those breakfast moments with Paul was a very big eye opener. And also, I guess like another eye opening moment for me in my life, I guess as a part of my story, was I had a motorcycle accident. That was my senior year of high school. Going into it.
I love the time skips, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Backwards, forwards, backwards.
That was totally before Madison night, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, senior year is before age of 20.
Yeah. Oh my! I can't remember my own timeline. Oh my god!
This is like one of those abstract art movies.
Yeah. Keep up with me. But yeah, that was another huge. I think. Well, yeah, that was a moment that really changed things too.
Because that's how we started doing breakfast.
Yeah, and that's when I first had barbacoa.
Yes,
because literally, this guy, man, he force fed. Well, no, he didn't. My dad did. Force fed me barbacoa taco. Okay, so me, I clearly I eat well. But I've never had this barbacoa before. And I mean, he brought it over. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But then I found out what it was. And for me, eating shredded cheek meat of a cow sounded kind of freaky and gross. I didn't want it. But motorcycle accident happened. So I broke both of these things. Well,
what are these things? Hands or
hands.
wrists?
My hands. Well, okay, my left wrist and then my right like forearm, and then something weird happened here with a tendon or something. I don't know. So I couldn't use my hands. So with that being known, yeah, I couldn't stop my dad from feeding me a taco, so I had to eat the taco. So yeah, that's how also then that was. And also for breakfast, like literally we would go to this place in Milwaukee, and it was called El Rey, right?
El Rey.
And man, delicious.
The waitress knew our order.
Yeah, she did.
She's just like, sit here. And then she had the ticket filled out by the time we'd get to the table. Like we'd walk in, she'd go, sit here, write out the ticket, put it down, and our order was already done. And
it was, dude, great service. Even like years later, like after like a while we hadn't been there like consistently, she saw us and she's like, I know. And she had our orders right away ready for us. And it's amazing. I bet maybe, I don't know, maybe she could still do that now if she saw us walking.
Oh, yeah, she would.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mexicans, we have great memory.
We'll have to try that sometime.
Unless it's speaking English, then we're bad.
Yeah, we've learned that one. No, but so yeah, the whole motorcycle accident thing, that was like a big, like, I don't know, realization of, right, life is fragile, and it's, as it says in the the Bible, like we're not guaranteed tomorrow, like, and that was just a very big wake up call for me. And during that time, it was crucial for me, I guess, with my spiritual walk, because like at first I was pretty pissed off.
Well, it's not like you had anything else to do besides sit around the house.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah. Literally getting spoon fed everything. And this is, man, I was a newborn baby all over again.
In all senses of the word.
Yeah.
You know what?
What?
Before Josh has his triplets, you should put your arms in the casket and have him take care of you.
Oh, I'm down.
Think about that before you commit to that.
It's Josh. He'll be suffering more than I would be, most likely.
This is true.
Yeah, so it's worth it. But yeah, it was tough because me being a musician, I love drumming, love playing guitar and all that, and this kind of set things back on that. And in the ER, we had a specialist come in, and to like, he was a arms wrist specialist, which is wonderful, obviously with the accident dealing with my wrists and arm. But he was saying like these can be life altering injuries, and I was like, huh? Like that terrified me, thinking about, man, maybe I'll never be able to drum again. And man, love my mom. As she was walking out, she's like, she said, Aaron, she's like, God's got you taken care of. Like he's got it all under control. And like that stuck with me. And like outside, after being out of the hospital and stuff, like being visited by friends and family and like pastors and stuff like that, that was huge. And like just kind of keeping me with it at times. Cause again, yeah, for a while I was pretty upset. Like I was like, man, my parents have invested so much time and money into me and like music and stuff like that, and I've been starting to invest in it. I was like, to possibly see this all just go away, like what the heck.
But that's a good reminder that life is fleeting. It can be over in a second.
Yeah, no, yeah. So it's like it really teaches you a lesson to take advantage of it and make the most of your time here while you have it. So yeah, with that, and end up having Madison night and getting to talk to Paul more, and that was just a big awakening. And ever since then, I mean, it's been more of a steady and a solid growing motion.
There's
for
always
me.
going to be setbacks. We all have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen setbacks that that you've had and that, and
Mhm.
that's not unexpected,
Right.
because part of being able to grow is to learn from those setbacks. It's not
Yeah.
always going to be a full 100% forward trajectory. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
10 steps
Yeah.
forward, 2 steps back, and then you learn, oh, that's how I can take 12 steps forward now.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and throughout the years, just learning how much one, I guess, like looking back on life, seeing all the things that happened is like, like the fact now, obviously, I'm still playing drums, I'm still playing guitar. Otherwise, I wouldn't have these things behind me.
I think you'd still have them behind you, even if you weren't playing, just to remind you of the times.
Just beauty, just nice art pieces. Yeah, mom would be so unhappy with that. But hey, it's my money, I guess, at this point. Yeah. But no, yeah. It's for the most part. I mean, I guess that's one thing like I've always, you know, thought about, and like knowing that there has been like a change in me. Like at times, like I'll hear other friends like testimonies and stories and stuff like that. And like some of my friends have some horrific backgrounds, I guess, just like experiences with family. One, obviously not being a Christian family, and like for like those stories to me, it's like wow, like that's awesome. And then I think about my story at times, I'm just like, kind of seems weak. But like sometimes when I look back, I'm like, what? But also it's like the thing about it is like all of our stories are unique. And it's like there's no perfect story, for each of us. It's like we came to Christ and that's our story, no matter which way it happened. And some of us think like, I mean, listening to a pastor talk about his story and once and just talking about testimonies in general, for those that had a horrific, like upbringing and like experience in life, like some of them, they wish, well, it's not some, probably all of them wish they had a simple upbringing in the church and like coming to know Christ and like a positive uh life beforehand. Because some of the stuff that they went through is, I mean, it's scarring. Uh, but yet again, if everyone had the same testimony and like same growing up, like we couldn't relate to people that have the, tough life before they knew Christ kind of thing. So having everyone having their own kind of story makes it, I mean, every one of us is unique and we can relate to other people in different stages of with different lives and stuff like that. We might have a similar life growing up and we can help them, with understanding things and, being generally older than the person that's getting saved. Sometimes
Not always.
not always though. Yeah, no, it's, Jesus isn't in the business of saving just the young people. It's everyone. So I mean, yeah, like I said, that's pretty much like my story of growing up and coming to know Christ. And I mean, till this day, it's always a learning experience. Like we're never done figuring it out. We've always got something more to learn. And like being friends with Paul, that has been a huge thing I've been learning because I mean, he's got a very different life than I have, to say the least.
Very.
So, and that was like a huge eye opener for me. And I mean, honestly, I'll let you do any kind of speaking you want to do for your life. Gosh, I know it's already freaking midnight and I've just been rambling, but
No, you've been
yeah.
doing good. You've been doing good. So I find it funny that and make sure that this is close enough here. I find it funny that you're like, yeah, so I was the drama queen at 5th grade. Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what you called yourself. So
Yeah.
I come up from a very different background than you, obviously. Half Mexican,
Mhm.
first off, foremost. Just kidding. That doesn't matter. So my background, I come from a Sunday Christian family. And what I mean by that, my dad would go to church on Sundays, take the kids along. My mom wouldn't go because she grew up Catholic, so she wouldn't dare step foot in a Baptist church. But we would go on Sunday, and it was more a ritual. So we'd go, we'd have breakfast in the morning, pancake, load into the RV. For whatever reason, we drove an RV to church.
Nice.
Don't know why.
Styling.
Get to church, go there, show up for the lesson, and then go to Hardee's for lunch, and then go home. That was Sunday church.
Nice.
Really didn't do anything. Like, I wasn't involved with the youth group. Nothing. VBS? No. Nothing like that. It was weird. I looking back at it now as an adult, I'm like, what? This is interesting. So that's happening. And then 8th grade. Yes, 8th grade for me. So I would have been 13 at the time. My dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. And turns out it was due to Agent Orange from when he was in the Marines in Vietnam. So the brain cancer turned into brain, liver, spine, lung, whatever organ in the body he had pretty much had cancer as a result of it. He had brain surgery when I was in 8th grade and did chemo and all that. And afterwards, he's like, I will never do chemo again if the cancer comes back. Well, guess what? 9th grade, it came back, or end of 8th grade. Over the summer, starting in 9th grade, it came back. And so at that point, I was 14, and I was 14 when my dad passed away. Now, before he passed away, it would have been the June before that. So this was June 1997. I can't tell you the Sunday. I just know it was June 1997. That's what I can tell you. And we were at fellowship. We were in the back, as always, for whatever reason. Like, this was back when fellowship had like a separate back like passage. Like, there were doors and a glass wall that separated the pews in the front from like the coat racks in the back.
Oh.
And there was like always like an extra pew in the back, and we would always sit back there. I don't know why. Okay, I really don't. And that's where we would sit. And I remember Pastor Dave, because he was there at the time, he was giving a message on like what happens when you die. Now, okay, I'm 14. I'm looking at my dad who's dying of cancer. I knew he was dying. As much as the family wanted to say, be positive, I knew it was happening. Okay.
Yeah.
And that intrigued me. I was like, I want to know what happens. And, Pastor Dave happened to give a message like, this is what happens when you die, blah, 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 blah. And part of it was like, look, the only way that you get to heaven when you die is if you accept Christ to forgive you. You have to be forgiven. You can't do it any other way. I was like, yep, that's what I want. And at that point, I'll be honest, that was more a fire insurance.
Right.
Get out of hell free card. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then, and at the same time, like I said, we're still doing that. We're still just, it's, dinner was, thank you, Lord, bless this food. Thank you. That was our Sunday, our meal prayer. But then something happened in October. I don't know. I think my dad actually met with Pastor Dave or one of the deacons. I honestly don't remember exactly who it was, but there was a change.
Huh.
And so for his birthday, instead of just the standard, thank you, Lord, for this food and, prayer, it turned into like a half-hour prayer from him. All of a sudden, it was him like asking for blessings on his kids after he passed away.
Wow.
For his wife, for her to find faith in Jesus after he passed away. This was October on his birthday. Okay. Thanksgiving, he was still able to walk. And then December 7th, he passed away.
Yeah.
He went downhill within a week, quickly. I was holding his hand when he passed away. Like, when he took his last breath, I was up holding his, like, it was like, my mom still hates this, but I find it funny. So it was just after midnight on December 7th. And she's like, I can't hold anymore. I got to go pee. She went to use the restroom. And while she was taking a pee, he breathed his last breath. And I'm holding his hand. I find it kind of funny because he didn't want to die in front of her, but she's like, you couldn't have waited.
Oh,
I
my
get it. I get
goodness.
it. I understand why she was a little like,
Yeah.
and my aunt at the time was on the floor, like calling all of my relatives and going like, "Hey, you better get over here. You better get over here. Better get
Yeah.
over here. It is the end,"
Yeah.
you know. And she was on the phone with someone. She's like, "You stop breathing." And she's like, "I don't know what to do."
Oh.
And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm
Well, yeah,
14.
being 14.
I'm 14. I don't know what I'm doing." But okay, so that happened. So you know how you're saying you felt very fortunate to grow up with a Christian family. You don't know how someone who doesn't grow.
Yeah.
All my family,
This is
for the most part, is Catholic,
Yeah.
and there were very few Christians in my family at that time, less than there are now. And my mom at the time was not a believer, so it was a very different dynamic for everyone at that time.
Right.
And me, I was still real young on everything. I was literally I hadn't had any really training or anything. Like I wasn't in youth group, nothing. So it was fire insurance for me.
Yeah.
And afterwards, for whatever reason, my mom was like, "You're going to youth group."
Okay.
Okay. So we found a way to get me to youth group. And once I started driving, it was easier. But at first it was difficult. And then my brother was like, "I'm not going to youth group," and throwing temper tantrums. And he actually ran away from the church once.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
we took him to youth group, and like we turned around, and when we turned back, he was gone. And then we found him like at the Kohl's down the road.
Oh.
We're like, "Come on, kid,"
Jeez.
causing us trouble. He's always been low.
He didn't want it.
He's always been a low problem. But anyways, so I go there to the youth group, and it was a different dynamic from when you were there. We had a lot more people, a lot of interactivity. But I'll admit, I didn't connect with anyone. No one. And, you know, just seeing my dad die recently and going through all that, and my mom being like, "Oh, you don't talk about your problems or your emotions or anything like that." It led to depression.
Yeah.
And I remember it was, it would have been my junior year of high school. I was thinking about ending it. And I went to camp. I was like, "Oh, I'll just go to winter retreat, winter camp. Give it one last go. See how it goes. See what happens." And really wasn't connecting with anyone really still. And then one person said hello
Hmm.
and talked to me. It wasn't a deep conversation. It was one person that reached out. And you know what? Me and him ended up becoming great friends. And I was a pallbearer at his funeral last year.
Yep.
And me and Nathaniel became great friends after that. We actually both became Awana leaders for fellowship. And what would happen was after we got done with Awanas, we would sit by our cars and we would talk for hours
Hmm.
about stuff going on in each other's lives,
Yeah.
going on in the world and everything, and just chat and invest. And I was still learning. And he wasn't an expert on things, but he was feeding into me.
Yeah.
He was helping me grow. And in turn, I was learning and growing and helping him in certain areas too. Now, was I still facing my depression? Yes. But I was doing better. I wasn't at the point where it was hopeless.
Right.
There was some hope there. And through that, I started growing. And it would have been my senior year, I got baptized finally.
Hmm.
And finally said, "You know what? This is the route I want to go. This is the things I want to do. These are the things I want to learn." And I got baptized. I never went on a mission trip with the youth group until Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yep, Arkansas, you and your spider package. So I never did that.
Yeah.
I never, but I never really clicked with everyone in the group, but I clicked with one person. And that was enough.
Yeah.
And that was enough. And if he hadn't said hello, I
Yeah.
might not be here. Now,
Yeah.
that's not the end of everything. I still dealt with depression afterwards. I never really got it treated. until it kind of all culminated in 2018.
Yeah.
And I remember that Xbox Live conversation. It took me forever to say those words. I need help. And I still feel kind of bad for you because you were young. You're younger than me. You're 12 years younger than me. So
Right.
you would have been 23 at the time, 22 maybe, 22. And what are you supposed to do? You're like, I don't
How do
know.
I help you?
And you did the exact right thing. You went to Andy. You said, Andy, yeah.
Paul said he need help.
And Andy did what he did and got other people engaged and involved as necessary. And it hasn't been a perfect, and that's, I think, one of the hardest things that we learn is to say we need help because it makes us feel weak and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying my life, from high school to now has ever been perfect. There have been so many ups and downs and disappointments and things that have been going great. And times where I feel at the top of the hill and I want to celebrate with God. And then times I just want to crawl into the deepest cave and say, never look at me again. But I've learned that sometimes those times when I want to crawl in that cave are the times when I grow the strongest coming out of it. And it's not always the thing where I know what I'm doing. It's I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's figure it out. And that's what I've enjoyed seeing you grow older because it really went from a mentor mentee kind of relationship. Which it had to be when you're younger. It has to be. It can't be you pouring into me at all. It has to be me pouring into you because you're still young. But as you grew older physically, mentally, and spiritually, I could then pull back the curtain and say, guess what? It's no longer mentor mentee. There might be still portions where I'm like pushing you along in that.
Right.
But now it's at the point where we're peers.
Yeah.
And we feed into each other.
Yeah. And
that's a different thing completely.
Right.
And the experiment worked. I'm surprised.
We're still here today.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Gosh, yeah. I remember, goodness, all of the weird, crazy talks.
We're not going to cover any of those right now.
We're not. But it's like, and that's kind of like what got this whole podcast started, was all the conversations we had about all the very different things we've had conversations on. And now this is where it's at now. And just so you all know, which kind of shocked me because with you saying this is my thing and I'm choosing what we're talking about here. Sorry, folks. I guess, starting this whole thing, I was just like, well, I guess why not start from the beginning of where we started with, I guess, our faith and stuff like that, since I wanted this to be a more faith-based conversation. And I was thinking, I was like, I know, like, Paul's like story for the most part for like growing up, well, pretty much from his dad passing. I know because there's a time from your dad and your brother. This from so like that October to December point was the toughest times for you. So I knew that about you,
right,
as becoming friends and stuff like that. And so I've known that. And then obviously, as you talked about, we had the Xbox conversation on party chat, whatever, and he's saying he needed help. Like, so those were like the hardest moments that I knew of that he'd been through, which, yeah. But I was thinking, I was like, I don't think I've ever told him my story. And I was like, I don't, I guess, know his story in full either. So I was like, well, let's start with that. So that's pretty much just the beginning of this episode. That's the first episode of this Bible Belt or whatever this is going to be called. So, but no, yeah, I guess, yeah, just a big thing on this is it's really cool when you get to know people and become friends with people and like learn where they've come from. in their life, and just seeing, granted, had Paul not been a part of my life, like I could have just, maybe I would have just drifted off. I don't know. I guess, like, end of the day, I mean, for what I believe, like, God's in control. And granted, had Paul not been there, could have found somebody else to come talk to me. But still, like, it's seeing the people that have been picked out in life and for each other, and watching, not watching it. Well, I guess you could be watching it happen, but like looking back on it and seeing how much has happened ever since, like getting to know Paul and my friend Jonah and stuff like that. Oh, that's his name. The kid that invited me to BBS. Which was funny because I've never told him that either until recently this year. Like I've never told him about what had happened, or like how him reaching out to me as a friend really helped change my life. So I was like, shoot, well, let's get the cat out the bag and expose it.
That's a weird way to that phrase.
Yeah.
Could you have picked a more interesting way to phrase that? Is my question.
Potentially.
Really, because
pull the cat out the bag.
Pull the cat out of the bag. I get that part. But then you're like, and expose it. What?
Look at it. No. But no. So yeah, I guess if you watched all of this, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully it wasn't too I guess boring for you. Especially if you made it this far, you've listened to it all, and I thank you for that. But I guess as this whole journey, I guess, continues, I just hope you join it and join in on our conversations and hopefully enjoy them. And if there's anything that you would like to see talk about as preferably a more spiritual topic, feel free to let us know. Let me know. And hopefully we'll be able to get to talk to it. And yeah, until next time, I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, see you next time.